Broad topics, broad minds, broad hosts, but not just for broads. This is Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall.
Today's Broadscast is sponsored by Audible.com. Kim's book and others, 180,000 others, are you can listen to them instead of reading them, which is quite a good thing for me anyway. And for the rest of you who don't have time to sit down and read a book. Audible.com/broadscast. Get a free month as well as a free audio download. Audible.com/broadscast. Welcome to the show. Hi, Kim.
Hi.
Thanks for coming, Kim.
Hi, I'm glad I could be here. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. It's Monday. It's Monday. I feel like it's a Monday.
I don't know. It all blends together for me at some point. The end of the summer is coming near with at least our kids. My kid is going back to school this week, and so I feel very rushed all of a sudden.
Right.
Yeah.
All the things I was going to do.
I'm going to do today.
Yeah. No, but we were going to the library every week, and we were going to walk the dogs as a family, blah, blah. I mean, we played Pokemon Go twice, I think. And that was
you were such a big advocate for that, too. That was the most important family time.
It was the best thing that has ever happened to me, and then for like 5 minutes.
Right.
But, I will owe the library, let's be honest, some money again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's... yeah, we're late. That's all. So welcome, everybody.
Hi.
Welcome.
Hi.
I have to tell you, I'm a little tired today because the Olympics.
Oh, dude, the Olympics. Okay, I keep getting spoiler alerts. Every time I pick up my phone, there's a spoiler alert.
Because it's happening 7 weeks in advance. Yeah, I mean, the
7 weeks?
No.
Oh.
Being dramatic. Oh. But it happens in Brazil, right. And then they have to air it. Of course, they're putting the stuff that's popular in prime time. So they're holding on to it. But then the prime time's happening 3 hours earlier on the East Coast.
I wish they would stop because we're all still watching it here. Like my local news is spoiling it for me. So I'm very annoyed with that. But anyway, I love the Olympics.
Because they want to be the one to spoil it. They don't want Facebook to spoil it. Well, if anyone's going to spoil your Olympics, it will be them.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling annoyed because I would like to... I don't know. I like to watch it live. I like to know that it's happening right when I'm watching it. I'm the only one, that's getting to see it. But I've been watching it. The community that we live in, that our show is actually broadcast from, has 3 Olympians that graduated from our school district out here. David Smith, who is on the men's indoor volleyball team.
Oh,
Abby Weitzel, she's on the swim team. She already won a silver. And Anthony Irvin.
You just spoiled it for somebody
that was
who didn't
yesterday.
know.
I don't know for what. And he got a gold. He qualified the men's relay team, but then was plucked from the team for the actual final. So he gets a gold medal too. That's pretty cool. Yeah,
that is cool.
That's exciting. And then he's swimming tonight again, and so that's kind of fun.
Yeah. Did you watch the relay last night?
I did watch the relay last night. That was pretty amazing.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That was after you were actually at my house last night.
I was.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. My husband had a little taekwondo injury. It's apparently it's not advisable to get kicked in the neck. So he's home for the day.
I'd like to kick people in the neck sometimes, but yeah, I guess.
Well, I will be the first to tell you it's effective if you can pull one off.
I would like to kick my HOA in the neck.
Oh,
I'm just saying it. I don't.
First of all, that was the best segue
violence,
you've ever had,
right? I don't usually advocate for violence, so it's like the not the literal kick in the neck.
Let's talk about your HOA because you wrote a post. It must have been 3 years ago on Broadscast.com.
I could write posts all the time about how neurotic my HOA is and how harassed I feel constantly by the letters that I receive on a weekly basis of all of the violations that I commit by being a homeowner. Violator. So the last one is, mind you, it is August, and I received a letter that said I was in violation of the HDL.
The HDL.
Wait, was that what it was? I can't remember. So stupid. The holiday decorations code, because I have a menorah in my window.
Wait, which window?
My front window in my house.
Wait, but you can't even see your front window from the house. I mean, from the street.
Yeah, yes, you can. It's like the guest window, but it's in my house. There's nothing hanging off of my house. There's no blinking
upstairs?
lights. Yes, but
okay.
It's just in the window.
Inside.
In the window. Yes, inside my home. So I'm sitting here thinking...
And by the way, you live at the end of a dead end. Like, so who... who can see that
okay,
window?
So in all fairness, the HOA is supposed to go around and make sure that people are not violating
The HOA holes, as I like to call them.
Yes, but my point is I can understand the HOA's rule, that not having holiday decorations, 2 weeks prior or post certain holidays and stuff. But I don't have snowmen on my lawn, and I don't have blinking lights on my house. I don't have snow, like candy cane lane up to my front door. It's a menorah inside my window that is not lit. That, quite frankly, in the picture they showed me that it was half falling out of the window, so you can see that I wasn't even like trying to be disrespectful.
Not falling outside.
It was falling... the inside. It was falling off the windowsill. But my point is like it's essentially the way that I likened it is that they could walk by my window, and if they saw something on my wall that was offensive, they could cite me for it because it was in my house.
Is that true?
No, but how? Like, what difference does it make if you looked inside? If you
no, but my point is, if you had like something offensive on your wall, can they?
Well, of course not. But they're basically looking in my house.
Yeah.
in my window. And there was a menorah there.
And let me be ignorant for a second, along with probably some of the listeners.
Menorah goes along with Hanukkah.
Yeah, a menorah goes with Hanukkah, but it's only at Hanukkah. It's not like a Jewish symbol that can be used all year. Like people don't leave the menorah up for other.
Who cares what you leave it up for? Like,
but
what
my
if
point is
a
it
menorah is associated with Hanukkah? Yes.
Oh, the 8 nights and because you light a candle.
Yes,
okay.
But what difference does it make? Does it?
Well, because yes, if they have a holiday code.
But it's in my house. It's not outside of my house. It's not lit up. Like, what difference does it make what I have inside my own home that nobody else can see unless you're standing in front of my house and looking directly at the window?
Do you have the phone number for the HOA?
No, but I'm serious. Like, I feel like should it be a difference? Should a menorah only be allowed to put up at Hanukkah? What if I had what if I just put Jewish stars all over my house? Like, would that make a difference?
Right.
I mean,
Is it that you're expressing your culture and your religion, or
what if that's all I had was the menorah? What if that's all I could afford? To be able to express my religious freedoms, and that was it. Right. And that's all I could afford, and I keep it up all year long because people put crosses on their doors, and I happen to have a menorah in my window. What difference does it make? I mean, I'm like really annoyed.
Yeah.
And mind you, I went to a board meeting to complain about the visitor parking spots that I have that are only allowed for visitors, quite frankly. And I have 4 cars that are parked permanently in those spots. Now, meaning nobody else can park in the spots. You've been to my house. It's very limited where you can park. The cars that have been parked there are still covered in ash from the fire that was a couple of weeks ago. And I've been complaining to my board, and they said, we'll take care of it. We'll send out the security. We'll mark their ticket. We'll mark their tires to know how long they've been parked there. Tickets. Absolutely nothing has been done, yet I get cited for a menorah. So I'm like beyond
But don't you
upset.
also have dogs next door that are like barking day and night and like...
Yes, the dogs bark constantly.
But nobody does anything. But this isn't the first time, guys. You seriously need to go and do a search for... I'll have to put that post back up because I think you are being targeted.
And they assessed $1,500 worth of fees to my account and never took responsibility for it. It sent my account into collections and attached a lien to my house because they wouldn't discuss with me my fees. And I've been trying to do that for 3 years. And very casually, as I was walking out of a meeting, they said, "Oh, by the way, those errors were our fault. Bye." And I was like, "What the?" Yeah. So I'm like, but I'm so like, ugh. Yeah. So I don't know if it was you or somebody else that told me I should nominate myself to be on the board, my HOA board. And I was like, no.
Oh, it wasn't me, but if it were, it would be a smart idea.
No, but I'm just wondering if what people think about
I have an HOA as well, and it's not like that.
But do you think that it makes a difference that it's a menorah and that a menorah is associated with Hanukkah, or that it's a symbol of my Judaism? Like, what I want to know, people think, if they think that it's legit, that it is inside my window, if that still constitutes holiday decorations,
right? And what does it say in the HOA document?
It doesn't specify where it is. It's just it can't be 2 weeks before or after. You only have a 2 week window.
Indoors,
it doesn't say. They didn't even cite me the violation code number, like the line item. It just says I'm in violation of this code. Of this section. And it just says 2 weeks before. It doesn't specify.
They are just awesome. I mean, I have neighbors like up the street when I drive anywhere, and I see that you probably see it when you come over here. The lights, right?
The holiday
lights that are still on people's homes.
But are they on?
No, they're not on.
Yeah, like who cares? It costs a fortune to put those lights up. Like if you don't plug them in, who cares? Like,
yeah.
police the things in our community that are actually making a difference, like that are actually impacting us. Like for us, the graffiti all over our pool, the fact that people pee and dump pizza and chairs in our pool. Like, pay attention to that. Like the fact that I have a menorah. They took a picture. They wasted ink to take a picture of my menorah and sent it to me. I mean, thankfully, they finally showed proof of my violations, because that's been a big gripe of mine. But seriously, like I feel harassed, and I'm totally offended by this. And I don't normally get offended at this stuff, but I'm like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, you always get mad when other people are offended about anything.
Because this is going to assess a fine to my account.
That's
I'm going to have to go before a board, and I'm going to have to discuss this. And I really feel like, are you really kidding me? It's a friggin' menorah.
Yeah.
Really? And I want to get the ACLU involved. Who's behind me, people?
That is totally crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so we're moving on from your HOA. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
We have a story on that went viral over the weekend, or a little bit before the weekend. And we talk about all this bad news sometimes, and we have some good stuff. So we have Amanda on today. Hi, Amanda. Can you hear us?
Hey.
Hi.
Amanda.
Yeah, perfectly. Hi.
So your story to me has so many layers to it. And first of all, you were born a female and you're gender nonconforming. So just for our audience, can you kind of explain a little bit?
What that's about?
Yeah, sorry. So you identify as
so the sex assigned at birth is female. And I identify as gender nonconforming, gender queer, also trans masculine. So what does that mean? Gender is complicated. That's what it means. It means I feel very gender fluid. The word I use for myself is kind of genderful. I feel very sort of masculine, embodied, and that I always have since I was a little kid. I've just sort of more identified as more masculine, though in a female presenting body. So all of the genders at the moment I'm comfortable with.
Oh, okay. So when you're at the airport recently, and then they have TSA does all of their craziness. So can you tell us what happened?
Yeah. So this happens every single time. In fact, when I came back, I was basically flying from Hartford to San Francisco. Mm-hmm. So every time I fly, when I go up to the scanner machine, what I now know that I didn't know before is there's a button. I think it's literally pink for female and blue for male that they press when they look at you. So on site they look at you and they press this button, and then the scanner scans you based on the form for female and male that's been programmed into the scanner. So when I went into the scanner, the scan finishes and I come out and I say, you're about to see this yellow square appear over my crotch, which happens every time I go through, and then they have to pat me down and check for basically what happened is, female was input because that was on my ID. Mm-hmm. But I wear boxer briefs and I wear men's jeans. And so the boxer briefs, sort of created bulk where the program for a female body shouldn't have bulk. And so it flags that area with this, sort of anomaly with this yellow square every time. Huh. So the machine scans for essentially density of anything, fabric, whatever, body. And so it was like, oh, this is a female. She should have bulk in her chest, but not bulk in her pants. And so I had boxer briefs.
So the yellow square.
I am the anomaly where there is no bulk in my chest.
Good one, Kim.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank
you very much.
I don't know. So some guys going through the scanner, who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
Could be embarrassing if no bulk was detected.
And there are plenty of men with man boobs, so I'm sure there's bulk there. But
That's
anyway,
a whole other show. Yeah.
So that happens, and what did the TSA agent say to you?
So this is what was different than every other experience I've ever had with this. So I'm pretty obviously disclosive. So I talk about the yellow square, and then when it happens, I say, I said this happens every time. And she said, with curiosity, why do you think that happens? And I said, I think it's because I wear boxer briefs, and it sort of flags that. And she said, oh, how would you like your gender identified? And I was like, oh, thank you for asking. And I explained, I'm female, though like identify as transmasculine. And that's, again, when the next thing that happened that isn't usual, she said, well, how about we send you through the machine again, and this time I'll select you as male and see what happens. And I was like, awesome. Like, this is such a fun, I'm like, how fun. Yeah, let's figure this out. So, and there was no line. I sort of joke, like, no passengers were delayed. No safety or security was compromised in the making of this beautiful moment.
Right.
Well, so I went into the scanner, came back out, and we're like looking at it to see what happens next. And sure enough, the yellow square disappears, though a yellow rectangle has now appeared over my chest, and we both just start cracking up. And I say, oh, the machine's wondering about, and it was hilarious. We both said boobs at the same time. Boobs. We're like, yeah. So then basically she was like, how would you like to be identified? I'll pat you down. So she did. She pat me down and followed all protocol, and that was the experience. But I think saying thank you is really important, even for mundane moments. In this case, I think she was sort of extraordinary in her both curiosity about why that was happening, but also her facility with asking me about my gender identity. And so I said, thank you. This is really this was like the most socially conscious pat down TSA experience I've ever had. I really appreciate it. And she was like, no. I mean, she's a lovely person. She's like 22 years old and just such a mature, beautiful soul. And so I said, no, really, I mean it. It's lovely that you can offer this compassion. And so then I think her boss, the supervisor, was there, because I was like, can I take a picture? And the supervisor was like, look, we're public servants. Of course you can. I said, okay. So I took a picture, and then I said, I'd love to, is there like a comment card, like something I can fill out also to just document my gratitude? And they said, yes. So I filled out a comment card. I hear my flight call it last boarding for your flight. And I was like, no way, there's no way this comment card's not going in. So I filled it out, and that's it. I got on the plane, and I write stories and do Facebook status, so I write it up quick, and then I just press send, and then the cabin door closes, and I eventually land in San Francisco, and I turn on my phone, and I'm like, oh my God. What just happened? Yeah, it was like 3,000 likes at that point, which I was very impressed with, and now it has more than 57,000. So over the course of crazy, yeah.
Why do you think people are so, I mean, this is just such a great story, and everybody's so quick to talk about when people don't go out of their way to try to be a little bit more understanding. Why do you think this resonated with so many people, even whether they're trans, not,
Yeah, good. That's such a good question. And really, the majority of people, I mean, just so many different kinds of people, lots of, plenty of trans people liked it, shared it, wrote to me, that type of thing. Though I am moved by how many allies or people who actually aren't comfortable necessarily, but also feel very heartwarmed by it. I mean, I think in one way there's a common target here. I think everyone has had a bad TSA experience. So there's a certain commonality to the story of everyone. And so TSA has one of the I think this is probably the most positive feedback TSA has literally ever gotten in a story. I think that actually may be true. I think, I was thinking about this. It was actually a pretty vulnerable post. And it's kind of funny. I have not publicly, to my close friends, to myself, I identify on the trans spectrum, but I've never actually publicly identified as trans. And so I was writing the message quickly. And the truth is, I do identify as, at this point in time, female and transmasculine. So I write this, and, it has to do with my boxers, which is personal. And the fact that she and I both said boobs at the same time. I don't really say the word boobs. Anyway, I'm I don't know why I said it at that time. Usually I use chest or breast, but at that time I said boobs. And so I think it was just it's a very personal story, and a very vulnerable story. And so I think people appreciate that. And also that it was done so well. And I think really the last line of the TSA agent, when she said, "I love people and we should just treat everybody with kindness," I think was sort of the clincher of the story. So I think she's the hero of the story.
So I have a question for you. So earlier this year, the TSA finalized this rule or law, so to speak, that they do have to identify with that pink or blue button, like you said, and it caused a little bit of an uproar, obviously, because people felt, regardless if you're trans or however you identify, it's a violation of privacy. And then I guess there was a lot of pressure that was put on the TSA, and what happened as a result of that they did remove that whole anomaly with the yellow box and all that stuff, that's not really supposed to happen. Because they wanted to be able to treat people with respect and dignity. And I guess the TSA was pretty rigid that they're not making certain accommodations. So do you feel like, I mean, you mentioned that you're open, but do you feel like in some way it's a violation of your privacy to be classified one way or the other that way? I mean, it doesn't matter that, I mean, I do. I mean, I feel like, it's a violation. Yeah, it's a violation. And what's the purpose?
I think it's a very interesting question. And I'm sure that there are trans activists who have written very smartly about this and who have some excellent analysis on the issue. For myself in particular, more that I love science and technology a ton. And I think that when engineering is done in the most conscious way towards safety, and also in the most conscious way towards kind of respect and imaginative thinking, that I think there's actually even another solution. Like, my question is actually, is that programming of that scanner, is that the way to ensure that we are the safest? Like, I have to imagine that there's got to be a way to scan, like infrared scanning, that can tell the difference between a body and inorganic material, right, regardless of the gender of the body.
Right.
So even beyond the privacy issue, I'm like, I don't even, it's actually an interesting.
That's a great point.
Well,
there could be an argument that the gender binary is actually creating issues with safety, because it's like, oh, let's define on this binary. It's like, wait, why don't we just define on whether like
there's a weapon in there?
Yeah, like infrared, like infrared technology can tell what's a body. And what's a body
and what's
part
denim and cotton?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, what's the?
Yeah.
I mean, I am appreciative that the woman that you met with, was so sensitive. But I just wonder, like, what is the purpose behind having to identify to begin with? Like, what is that? How does that change whether or not you are profiled one way or the other? Or what is the benefit in classifying that?
So there is a rationale. I mean, of course they have to have there's a rationale for what they do. So the idea is, here's my guess, is statistically, when you have a bunch of people coming through a machine, sort of a shorthand way is, if you classify by male and female, then if there are, it's sort of like just a quick way to say, oh, if somebody's hiding something somewhere. So if I am if I am seen as female, perceived as female, but then, I have some bulk in some area, they're thinking, oh, are you hiding something there? Or if I'm classified as male and I have bulk in my chest, oh, are you hiding something there? I think that is their rationale, though I don't.
But wouldn't the machine pick it up regardless if they think you're hiding it or not? I mean, if the machine, if the purpose of going through, if the purpose of going through the machine is to detect whether or not you're carrying something, it shouldn't matter whether they think you can jam it up one hole versus another. Like, honestly. I mean, there was a woman that got through security with a child in her suitcase. Did you see this? This woman was trying to. Yes, there was a little child that peeked out of her suitcase because someone saw something bulging from the bag and they unzipped and a kid popped out. So you would think that our systems could be a little bit more advanced. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. If you've got something jammed up a wahoo that,
But what are they looking for? Aren't they looking for weapons? Because are they looking for drugs and other things like that?
I'm sure they're looking for anything that is against TSA rules. So it could be weapons, it could be sharps, it could be a substance of some kind, it could be an accessory to creating some kind of, it could be an explosive. I mean, it could be any of those things. So I guess the framework that I come from is that way of scanning even really ensuring our safety? Because there's often this conversation that it's like, oh, it's either safety or respect for people. And I would argue actually that respecting people is a fast track to safety, because if passengers and TSA alike view this interaction as a partnership, and we're here, and have an understanding we're here to facilitate like safety, and everybody's treating each other with respect, including passengers treating TSA with respect, the process goes a lot easier, even in terms of the technology. Again, like, is that really the safest engineering for detecting dangerous stuff? Like, I doubt it. Like, I would have to really challenge engineers. So I love science. So I'm like, come on, science. Like, let's think beyond binaries, because I actually think there's probably a safer way to do it.
Right. But I love the fact that you are so willing to be vulnerable and to talk about this and to, understand their points, but also make suggestions. Like, I think that's the way. You are a prime example of how we need to communicate with each other in this country about a variety of issues. Because you're open-minded and you're thoughtful and you respond in such a way. And I think that that's why one of the reasons that people have really responded to this, because you're not angry at the people who haven't been that respectful. You're grateful to this person.
The one who, the one who has, and even to just like break that down though, because sometimes, I'm very lucky. I mean, I'm comfortable with the name that's on my ID and the name that I currently have. I occupy a certain space that gives me a degree of comfort. I'm middle class. I'm white. I love my life right now. So like, I'm pretty happy and I have privilege, really.
Yeah, the internet broke, apparently.
Oh, sweet. We finally broke the internet.
We broke the internet.
Jackie.
So if you're listening to us live on Broadscast or anywhere else, we had a little bit of a technical issue. So we and to wrap that up with Amanda, and I just love her story. So I'm going to find out more information on how we can reconnect with her, and you can find her on broadscast.com, and we'll let you know, because I think that any of her messages out there that are filled with vulnerability and honesty, and we having conversations that aren't necessarily easy is a good thing.
Right. So. And that's the benefit and beauty of social media. It actually worked.
Yes.
In a positive way.
Well, and we talk about social media on the regular that it can it can be a difficult place, but to be able to share ideas and share them in a way that's actually effective. I think that's why this story was so resonated with people.
Right.
So
I think that the way that she handled it also helped to perpetuate a positive outcome, because she could have taken a different route, which was to lose her mind right there in the middle of the security line. But instead she chose to be educational and I don't know. I'm always a fan of that.
Yeah. I mean, with the work that you do too, like, I mean, you work with kids who, yes, drugs, yes, family issues, yes, alcohol abuse, but you work with a lot of kids who have gender questions or if not already identifying, but questions about it and questions about their sexuality. And people tend to confuse those two things, even though they have not, they're not the same thing.
I've been confused on numerous occasions, just because I don't understand it yet. And it's incredible that I get to be educated along with my staff as some of our teenagers are kind of coming to terms with how they feel. I mean, feeling confused in your own body is not exclusive to being a trans person versus not being. I mean, a lot of us are confused in our own body, whether we identify however we identify. I mean, becoming a teenager and becoming sexual and becoming physical and intimate with yourself and not even, just how you view yourself in the world and how you put yourself out there, is confusing. And then you add to it that if you're born with female body parts, but you identify more as male, I mean, it's all very confusing. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to learn about it and Well,
and you also learn about it in a way that's is interpersonal, like face to face. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of us learn certain things online, and it's not the same.
Well, but it's
so
also...
when you see a personal struggle and somebody talks to you,
right,
that's not the same as reading a blog post.
Right. But, especially with the kids that we work with, it's not about how they can reconcile the body parts with their brain. It's really about how to love yourself in your most authentic way, and how you can put out into the world that. So people will always want to add the right or wrong to, the body parts and the underwear you wear and how you label yourself. I mean, but at some point, like, we all struggle with that. Mm-hmm. And what we try to advocate with our kids is really just how you can be the most comfortable version of you, and how you can, be in the world with that, with your heart and mind intact, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to come back in a few minutes with another story. Home ec. Remember home ec?
I do remember home ec. I have some I have pillows that I used to make in home ec. The shark, you could cut out the shark.
Totally. They were always shaped.
The boom box. Remember, you could cut out your pattern and then you didn't have the boom box?
I did not have the boom box. I'm trying to think of what shape we had.
You could cut out whatever you wanted. I had more than one.
Really? Yeah. But, wood shop and metal, and, there were all these different, and home ec, like all these different.
Auto. Was it auto?
Auto we didn't do at our high school. They did it some
auto.
like, you did? Uh-huh. Did you go to like a regular?
No, I went to the home ec class because that's what girls did.
I know, but the auto shop was in like a regular high school? Yeah. Not a vocational.
I grew up in Chicago.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that, and like, should it be taught in school? Or is that our job as parents?
And is it sexist to require that a female go into the home ec class?
Well, duh.
Well, is it?
We'll be right back.
What does being a broad mean to you?
A broad tells it like it is. Doesn't take no for an answer.
She exudes confidence.
A warrior princess of the urban jungle.
Being a broad is being diverse.
Strong enough to do things on your own, but smart enough to know when to ask for help.
We succeed. We get right to the top.
Being a broad is 10% of what happens to you and 90% how you deal with it.
Broadscast, where every broad's voice matters.
You're listening to Broadscast with Kim Goldman and Jackie McDougall. Two broads with faces made for radio.
We are back. Welcome to Broadscast. If you are just joining us, she's Kim Goldman.
I am, and that's Jackie McDougall.
That's me. And we are here twice a week live, Mondays and Fridays. So you can find us on broadscast.com and click the Where to Find Us tab. You can subscribe to us on iTunes. And, while you're there, you might as well do a little rating and a review or something so we can build the show and bring you more awesome stuff. And we have some big stuff coming up in the next, few weeks. So Kim's looking at me like, what is it? What do we have? What do we have? But today's episode is brought to you by audible.com. And so head on over to audible.com/broadcast. For some really great audiobooks that you can download, and a free one and a free month. And you can also support the show by heading to broadscast.com/special offers because we have a slew of things over there.
I need to give you a glass of wine so that when you say that, it sounds like I just want to hear that. I just want us to drink is basically what I'm saying. I don't really care what we read, how you say Audible, and then the slew of title, all the whole thing you just said.
The whole thing?
Yeah.
You think I wouldn't say it as well?
I don't know. I think we should test that out.
Okay. Well, you do that, Kim, and then I will. So I'm actually working on pulling people into our little conversation here, technically. So I'm talking about, tell me a little bit more about these pillows. So,
okay. So when I was growing up, I grew up in the Midwest, and in my junior high and in my high school, at the time, we had home ec classes, we had auto shop, we had wood shop. I don't remember anything about metals. I think that was part of auto. But I remember taking auto. Home ec. And in my home ec, I remember my class, we had the green ovens, and we learned how to cook. We had recipes that we followed. We learned how to sew. We learned how to use a sewing machine. I remember some of our class projects where you had to pick a pattern that you wanted to make a pillow of, and I picked a boom box because that was big in the 80s.
You like the boom box,
and I made a boom box, and I could pick whatever pattern I wanted, and I made a shark. And I remember I made a sock or a boot or something.
Okay. Now that we know everything that Kim made.
But my point is, I learned how to use a sewing machine. I learned how to.
Yes.
How to.
Do you use a sewing machine now?
No, I don't. I don't remember how to use a sewing machine. But I don't choose to. But I knew how to do it. I knew how to sew buttons. I knew how to fix zippers. I knew. I made a dress. I cut out a pattern.
That's cool.
I went to the fabric store, and those paper patterns, and I made a dress.
Right. That's
so
awesome.
it was helpful. Was my point.
And I would love to actually know how to do all those things now. But Samantha Kemp Jackson, our regular multiple mayhem mama, she's been on the show several times. I think she's in the running for most appearances here. We have her on the line, and we also have Brendy on the line. And we're going to talk a little bit about that because Samantha and Brendy, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thanks.
Hi.
So,
Glad to be here.
thank you. So Sam, you wrote a blog post about home ec and being taught in school. So what are let's start with you. What are your thoughts there?
Okay, my thoughts are we absolutely have to bring it back. I think that we're in a society now where kids don't know how to do a lot of things that we used to know how to do. So I too took home ec. I too got those little paper cutouts from, the fabric store and learned how learned how to put on buttons. Zippers were a little hard. Learned how to cook basic meals. I didn't take shop, but I wish I did. And I really think now kids are too coddled. And because of YouTube, they think they can do things by just watching a video. And that's not really the case.
Well, so, do you think because they seem to learn everything by watching videos. So you think that we should go back and have home ec as an elective in school or like a mandatory class? Or?
I think it should be mandatory. I think home ec and shop class or auto shop or whatever it's called, home ec and, building and repairing things should be mandatory and not gender-based. So in my blog post, I talked about back in the day when I took it, it was mostly girls taking home ec, boys taking shop, and it was grade. I think I was in 7th grade or 8th grade. But I think now all students should take it, and it should be taken at an earlier age than 12 and 13. I think we should start the kids early, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old, just some very basic things that they can learn. I think it doesn't hurt for kids to know how to do some basic cooking, preparation of meals, sewing, whatever.
Now, Brendy, do you have the same? Do you think that this should be taught in school, or what are your thoughts? Brendy is a financial coach, community activist, and mother of 3 boys under 3. What do you think of this and Sam's post?
Well, first of all, I agree, and I loved your blog post, and I wanted to just kind of emphasize I'm totally in agreement, but I think that we're letting parents off big time, because we in the 50s and the 60s and the 40s when this was taught in school, the parents reinforced it at home. So while I am in agreement, I am not okay with the bubble wrapped kids that we've created, but also these parents that feel like all the life skills should be taught by the government via public schools. So I think we've kind of got we've given ourselves a huge mess because we want the schools to do everything, and they're not doing it. The parents aren't doing it. Now we've got a whole generation of kids that don't know how to do laundry. They can't boil an egg. They don't. Yeah. But oh Lord knows they can find Pokemons all over the place, and they can work YouTube and figure out the internet, but they can't start a load of laundry. So I feel like the parents aren't home to teach them because we've got both working parents. And I think it's not just as easy as saying kids have to teach, schools have to teach this. I think it has to be reinforced at home, but parents are going to have to reevaluate their priorities and figure out, do we really want to teach our kids? Which might mean one of us might need to be home. And that's controversial, but that's kind of where I stand.
Wow. What do you think of that, Sam?
You know what? I think you're absolutely right, Brendy. You've actually shone a light on another aspect of this whole, home ec shop thing. I think that you're right. I think kids need to learn, but because of the way that our society is set up, we don't have the supports at home. And that's a larger discussion and a larger question or a larger, thing that we have to consider. But I think that you're right. I think also, in addition to what you said, I think we need to talk about financial support. So we should be teaching kids how to deal with finances. We need to teach them how to not go into debt, how to budget, how to, work within their means, because I think that we are so used to having a society now where, it's a consumer society, it's a materialistic society. Kids want iPhones, they want the latest and greatest this and that, but they have no idea how that's going to be paid for. And there's going to come a time where the parents are not going to be able to pay for everything for them. And are they going to go into debt? Are they going to be bankrupt because they have never been taught the skills? I think finance should be part of that as well.
Let me ask you, ladies, were either of you taught financial skills in school? Because I went to school. I was born in 1971. Like, I went to school. I was never taught how to balance a checkbook or any of that. And now the fact that we don't have to because it's all online is like my best friend. Were you taught that?
I wasn't taught that. I don't recall being taught that, but I think it should be taught as part of this overall overhaul that I'm, proposing here about home ec. It should be taught.
Well, Brendy, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but Brendy, aren't you doing something similar to this for your local school district?
Yes, I am. Basically, this is a huge pet peeve of mine because we are a culture that is completely obsessed with stuff. Nobody is budgeting. Nobody's home teaching themselves or their kids how to budget. And so therefore the average household debt, not including mortgages, is about $50,000 to $60,000. And so we're just a hot mess. And then we expect our kids to turn around and figure it out. And if your kids turned around and grew up and handled money exactly the way you do, you would be horrified. But nobody's.
How do you know that?
So yes. So the numbers say that. But yes, Kim, I have been working with our local school district and kind of saying, okay, parents aren't teaching it, schools aren't teaching it. We are just going down a path of just, what I say, we're much worse off than Greece. Everybody was making fun of the country of Greece. But the numbers show that we, the American families, are actually way more upside down than the entire country of Greece. So we have been working with local businesses, myself, and another local real estate agent to get this into schools. So we help sponsor it. The schools don't have the money. So we've been looking around finding local businesses that say, hey, do we want the next generation to be a complete disaster? Then no, let's get this into the schools. So it's kind of the same conversation. The schools don't know where to start because it's not been taught for probably about 2 to 3 generations, home ec finances. So the local businesses and the parents need to get off Facebook, get off social media, and go down to their school and say, what do you need? Right. Everybody says we should do it, but we've got to find partners, and we actually have to figure it out. So the schools accepted it in my school district with open arms. We provided some of the funding. And we said, let's do it. And they're going to be teaching it to thousands of kids, financial foundations of personal finance, starting this fall in my area. And I'm thrilled.
That's fantastic. So
that's amazing. I think that we all need to do that. I think that, there needs to be a groundswell of parents going to their respective school boards and demanding that this is done because, we're all going to be in the bind where we're going to go through another financial meltdown in a number of years when our cohorts grow up and realize they don't know how to balance a checkbook, they don't know how to budget, and they end up going through bankruptcy. So I think that it's imperative that we do this so that, the future of our economy, wherever you live is kept intact.
Right. But I think, Sam, and I know we're going to lose you in just a minute because you have to go get your own kids. But but I mean, what Brandy's saying is that the school district didn't necessarily have this. That they're open to parents or, she's a professional in this field and working with local businesses and getting the community support behind it. I know that, going to a school board, and I'm on a school board, we all want to do that and think that we're going to get answers, and it doesn't always work that way. So how do we as parents work together? And Sam, is there a future post in what we as parents can do to kind of start the ball rolling and get some of this stuff taught, whether it's in school, it's in after school, it's, because I think that to go from 0 to 60 and expect that they're just going to pick it up and the finance of it and all that is probably not going to happen.
Realistic.
What's something that we can do?
No, I think Yeah, no, we absolutely have to band together. I think that it is two-pronged. So yes, there absolutely will be a secondary post to my first post, because I did a bit of personal crowdsourcing on my personal Facebook page, and I got a lot of responses from people saying, yes, yes, yes. I also have a poll on the actual blog post about this, asking whether or not we should be instituting home ec and shop. And right now it's looking at 100% of the responses are yes. So absolutely, people want it, but they don't know how to implement it. I also think that we have to go back to the whole it takes a village philosophy, whereby we support each other. So as you said, maybe we do an after school program, or maybe, there are parents who need to volunteer, just like we volunteer for PTA or other things at the school. Perhaps we need to volunteer to teach kids basic skills. And once we have that groundswell going, then maybe the school board will get on board, or maybe they'll support it in some capacity. And then when they see that it's successful, they'll pitch in, whether it's financially or otherwise.
Well, and maybe we can do a parent-child class, so that way the rest of us can learn it again and make it effective.
That too.
Well, we know you have to jump off. Samantha Kemp Jackson, Multiple Mayhem Mama, MAMMA. People can find you there and take the poll and all that good stuff. Thanks,
Please
Sam.
do. Thank you so much for having me. We'll talk soon.
Sam.
Okay. So, Brendy, bye, Sam. So, Brendy, I don't want to lose you yet. Can we keep you for a few more minutes?
No, I'm here.
Okay, cool. So, to go back a little bit, because you mentioned the at-home parent thing. Do you think that some of these things that we're talking about cannot be accomplished in homes with two working parents?
I think the parents just have to reevaluate their priorities. So what I see as a financial coach is, like I said, nobody's budgeting, nobody knows where their money's going. So therefore, they can't be home teaching some of these things because they have to be at work. And they have to be funding this lifestyle, especially in Southern California, where we are just obsessed with looking rich. And I see the behind the scenes as a financial coach when people come up in the really nice car and they've got the nice house, and I see the numbers. The numbers do not support that lifestyle. Therefore, they can't be at home,
right,
even in the evenings, teaching, hey, get off your phone and do your own laundry, Junior, because nobody's has the energy to do that because we're so dang tired. And it's basically, it's not impossible, but you're setting yourself up and your family and the next generation for failure if you can't have the mental clarity and the focus to work on some of these skills if you're working 60, 70 hours a week. It's not impossible, but your kids are watching you, and the stress about your bills and the anxiety sleeping into your children's world is completely unavoidable if you have just set up your whole life as so hectic because you have to work to fund this lifestyle. So there's a lot of different prongs. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a lot easier if one's at home. And I don't care who it is. So I don't want anybody to think I'm being sexist. I don't care who it is, but somebody, in order to make it a little bit easier for the entire family, has to be. It just makes it easier if somebody is focused in that area.
And I before you came on, I was telling Jackie, and I said, that Brendy has a unique perspective because you are to use the word we said before, an anomaly, in the sense that you have reprioritized your life to accommodate what you're backing what you're saying, right? So you're home, you adjusted with your husband, but there are a lot of families that just believe that if my kid's in school, they're fine, they're safe, they're learning what they need to learn, and they're doing the best they can. I know, that there are lots of people that say it's the parents' responsibility to be teaching certain things to their kids, whether it's about, birth control or sex or abstinence or financial literacy or cooking, whatever it is. But there are parents that don't have those skills. And so it kind of speaks to what Jackie was saying earlier about, can we do refresher courses for parents? Because in my business, the mental health component of it, people always say, well, can't the parents just talk to their kids? I'm like, parents don't always have those skills.
Some of these kids are showing up at school hungry. So I don't think mom's going to doesn't have the wherewithal to be home sewing up a boombox pillow.
Right. I'm just saying that, it seems like such an easy fix to just add some of these classes, to school, but then to also require that you have a parent. But how do you bridge those two worlds?
I will say in the curriculum that I worked in to get into my local school district's Foundations of Personal Finance, it has a component where the very first week, the homework is taking it back to the parents and having a conversation about the family budget. And it's totally a trick question because there is no family budget 90% of the time. So the parents basically find out, oh, my kid is now learning how to budget. They are thrilled and equally terrified because now part of the kids' homework is to go back and say, Mom, what do we spend monthly on food? And the parents do not know. And then they go back and they work it out and they start the conversation. So I think that at one point it has to start somewhere, either home or the school. And so if it's not anywhere, at least we can start it in the school. And then part of the homework is to send it home and work it out with the parents that way. And we have a resounding, heavy applause, just like Sam said in her blog, 100% support from teachers and parents going, oh my goodness, we're actually teaching life skills again in school. This is amazing. So we get a real heavy support from parents on our end.
But, I used to work at a job where we would write a lot of blog posts and do videos and this and that. And we would just talk about things that women talk about, like this show. And there was this resounding response to money, this financial discussion from women, mostly because that's who I worked with, where they just would like gloss over or like, that commercial where they're trying to talk about like insurance and everyone's like, I'm busy. I'm, emptying the dishwasher. I don't know anyway, but everybody seemed to be like, oh, I got to go. I have a conference call. Right, yeah. I got to go. I can't talk about this right now. Like people are very uncomfortable. And, I know growing up with my dad, he was very private about his money. So how do you teach these kids when sometimes the parents are so resistant?
Well, it's interesting because it depends on the personality. Some parents are open with it, some are not. And that is a learning opportunity for the child immediately, because then they realize, why are we afraid to talk about this? And that is a lesson in and of itself. And we cover that very gently. There's no part of the curriculum where it's about bashing the parents' spending habits. It is not a part of that, but we want to at least start the conversation. And most of the parents say, I'm uncomfortable talking about my mistakes in general. We're talking about anything, let alone money, but it slowly broaches the subject. Some parents will just completely say, no, we're not talking about it. But most parents, when they're looking at the face of their next generation, they'll go, all right, we should talk about it. But there's always the parents that just won't talk about anything. And then that's when we have to take a little bit different approach with them.
Right. Well, it's one of those things that, you must have, I'm putting you on the spot now. Do you have tips for parents who maybe aren't necessarily teaching their kids, or maybe they're not so good with, whether it's money or home ec or any of those things that we should be doing at home? Like, how do we start?
Yeah, it's very touchy, but I think it's fun, and I like awkward conversations. So that's kind of I'll just jump right in and say, hey, people would rather talk about sex with their kids than money. That's what I see 10 times over. But I give some presentations to local moms groups about how to broach this subject. But it starts young if you can. And this is going to sound crazy, and you guys might never invite me back again, but use cash. Actually using money with your kids will blow their mind. In 2016, they won't even know what's happening. They'll go, okay, mommy only has $20. Right. We can only spend $20. They will look at you like you've got 3 heads, and they'll be like, no, just use your plastic magic card. That's what that's what one parent said that her child says, just use your magic card, because they don't understand the concept of debit or credit. And newsflash, the parents don't either. Right. So then when you actually pull out this thing called money, actual money, that starts a whole conversation. And that is where I suggest people to start. And then, talking through how much do you spend a month on food? How much do you spend on electricity? And just start talking about the real numbers. Numbers equal truth. You can't lie about how much you spent on electricity. It's painful. This is what it is. But share that with your child, and they will start kind of, oh, this is interesting. I had no idea it cost that much.
I used to remember when I was young that my dad used to take me to the grocery store with him, or actually I went along anyway because I had nowhere else to go. And I learned how to read the labels on the shelf that said 4.2 cents per ounce, and my dad used to tell me, can you figure out which bottle of pasta sauce is the cheapest? And so then I would, sometimes the bigger jars, less expensive than 2 small jars. But now I do that with my son. So now when we go shopping, he reads the labels with me and we determine what is the least expensive based on the price per ounce. And then we multiply it by blah, 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 which has been really helpful with my kid. But also, Brandy, like what you're saying, is using cash. You give your kid $20 and say, okay, we're going to go shopping. And how many things, this is our shopping list. What can we get for this $20? My son always forgets to add tax. But because my son has a very large spending habit, and it's always with my money. And so, now that he's, a little bit older, he needs to contribute, like his backpack, Jackie, you posted him at a backpack. My son wanted a new backpack. Well, he wanted the $50 backpack. And I said, I'm not buying you a $50 backpack. And I said, so go online and go find it for this amount of money and you're going to contribute $10 towards it. Well, sure enough, my kid came back and he found the backpack with a discount, with free shipping. He really did his research because we had a limit, and if he wanted it, he needed to find it, and he did.
Awesome.
But listen, I am survival of the fittest at my house, and so I don't have any other way to do this except because I have a very strict budget in my home. But I was also raised that way, and I was raised by a single parent, and so we were always very conscious of money, and that's. The value of $1 goes a long way.
Right.
So.
And Brandy, your kids are really little, but do you talk about some of this stuff? Like for my kids, they don't need new backpacks. They had one a couple of years ago and then they moved on to one last year and that one didn't hold up as well. And they have these like Adidas backpacks that they got, and I'm like, those are totally fine I don't need 27 backpacks in my house for 3 kids. And so I told them to pull one out. And so, do you talk to your kids about that stuff? Like, do they understand even at that age that you don't just get whatever you want?
Oh, very much so. And it's not something that I do to frustrate them. I do it because it's my job as their mother to teach them. And so when we're going down the store, maybe this morning we did this and I want a new helmet. I want this. I want that. That's a natural for a 3.5-year-old. That's a natural thing to say. I said, nope, that's not on our list. I show him my list. Well, how do we get stuff on your list? That's a natural thing that, he's smart. He figured that out quickly. But we just start talking about it. And I think that parents do their children such a disservice if they just buy them everything that they want and then don't have that opportunity to share. Where does money come from? That's something that people say, oh, money doesn't grow on trees. But if you give the child everything that they'd like, that is telling them money does come wherever I want it. So and Kim, to answer your question in terms of kind of where to start, you already see the back to school stuff on the shelves.
Right.
So give your child the list that's provided by your schools. Give them a budget. You figure out kind of what's reasonable. Give them a budget and say they can keep whatever's left over.
Oh. And
if they want, they can use it all or they can keep, whatever. And I'm telling you, every parent that I give that to, you'll be able to see the spender that you have in front of you. Do you have the one that wants the all of the frozen name brand stuff and have no, money left over? Or do you have the dollar store child who wants to have all of the, the crappy stuff?
That might be the best tip I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. But then you see the type of child that you have. Do you have the spender? Do you have the saver? And then and neither one is bad. You figure out the type and then you foster, okay, the one that's the cheapskate, let's work on generosity with you. And then the one that's the major spender, okay, now you have nothing left and you have all of the nice, really high-end stuff, but now you've got nothing left. Both are totally great learning examples. So that's a great homework.
You are amazing. We will have you back on because
speaking of generosity, thank you for squeezing us in amongst your 3 kids today. Yeah.
Mom goals for sure. Thank you so much, Brandy.
Thank you, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. So that's it for our show. We're over. So thanks for listening and we will talk to you on Friday.
See ya.
Have a good week.
Bye.